What's up, dude?
everybody? How's it going? Good morning.
Yeah, dude, I slept like a fucking angel last night, dude, like a little baby. As soon as I got home, my roommate was playing Evil Dead. So my roommate has this like really intense PlayStation 1.
Evil Dead, like the movie?
Yeah, it was a PlayStation 1 version of like the Evil Dead movie.
Oh,
and
shit.
like Bruce Campbell does the voice of Ash in the game, and it's like really fun, and you're like putting things together and you like find the car that's broken down. Anyway.
Is it the first one or the second one?
It's like a blend of everything, kind of. It's just like the Evil Dead world, everything before the third one, which is where he goes back in times. Yeah. But either way, I came back and he's like, "Bro, eat this," and I'm like, "All right, bet." And so I ate these like 2 edibles that he gave me, and I slept so well afterwards.
I bet, dude.
But anyway, on to the show. Shout out to our patrons who make our world go round, help keep this show funded. As we've said, for anybody who's a recurring listener, this is the money that we use to go into our van fund for our van excursions. We're about to get our muffler welded back on, as well as the van officially registered and insured and all that kind of shit, because it's basically just been sitting in a storage facility for since October, or well, not anyway. So we're really excited to get it on the road and to start making some content, and we'll have our first bit of on the road content ready for you guys probably the first week of June. So that's really exciting for us. Now Gavin and I are both vaccinated, and ready to go. So super exciting. So thanks for everybody that's been helping along, and thanks to everybody that's been listening for us while we've talked about this van shit for so long.
We promise it's happening, guys.
Yeah,
we promise it's happening. We're not just making this shit up. Anyway, also another shout out to our patrons. We're going to be dropping a really exciting interview later this week, and it's going to be available to our patrons only, the $5 and up patrons only, for about a week. So we're really excited for this interview. I think you guys are going to be too. And again, if you want to have a week early access to check it out before the masses, that is the way. So again, that link in the description.
All I'll say is, if you're feeling hungry like the wolf, you might want to become a patron.
Exactly. We're super excited for that conversation, and many more that are coming down the line, which will either be early for patrons, and maybe in the near future or later down the road, some will even be patron exclusive. So we're really excited. And again, just a huge shout out to those people supporting us. It really does make the show possible, and it's fueling our really far more ambitious content, which is coming in the near future. So just thanks so much to those people supporting the show. There's also a PayPal link in the description if you're not a fan of Patreon or of donating via Super Chat, which is also, of course, an option if you really want to get our attention. That's probably the best way to do so. But like I said, there's also that PayPal link, so they don't take a cut of your donation like YouTube does. So anyway, just wanted to let everyone know before we get our show for today started.
Yeah, housekeeping aside, we have a dope show.
Yeah, we have a couple comrades coming back on the Vanguard today from the Fred Hampton leftists again. We're inviting back JB and RJ. What's up, guys?
Hey, guys.
What's up?
It's good to see you.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, so where are you guys located? Is it afternoon for you guys? Is it morning?
I'm in Florida, Orlando to be specific. And
right on.
So it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here.
Gotcha.
How's the weather?
I'm from Michigan, so it's one.
Sunny.
Right on.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn up your mic a little bit, RJ.
It's hot.
I can change the mic.
Oh, it's hot already?
Yeah, my laptop's pretty bad. Hold on.
Oh, it's all good, guys.
Oh, I was talking about the weather being hot.
It's all good. I was just telling RJ that I turned up his mic because it was super low and I couldn't hear him.
Gotcha. Yeah, but anyway,
no, I turned it up, not off. You're good, RJ. It's fine. I was just saying I turned up the volume so I can hear you when you talk.
Yeah, you can unmute. Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, no, you're all good. Everyone is good. But yeah, so without further ado, I guess we can get into our first story, which is a friend of both of the shows, Thomas Frank. He's obviously one of the
hometown hero in Kansas City.
Absolutely. And has been a guest on the Fred Hampton Left podcast as well. Did you guys want to maybe just start off by telling us how that interview went and what kind of experience you had speaking with Thomas Frank before we get into today's story involving him?
Yeah, I can give a brief summary because I was actually co-hosting that episode with Compton J. It was on his show. We did like a special edition on Saturday. We went live. We really talked about the history of populism, especially what happened in the 1890s with Williams Jennings Bryant, going against he was the president back then, but the vice president at the time too.
Yeah, I know who I know you're
Theodore
talking about.
Roosevelt. Yeah, I forgot the name. And then we also
Yeah.
talked about populism back in Kansas. I know you guys are from there as well, how rich that history is. And we also really compared to how phony populism, how that's been fomented by Trump and even sometimes Democrats when they use it to try to get really working class people to really subscribe to their party. And we did also talk about too, which we'll mention in that clip, the divide between like populists and how Biden is trying to use that populist rhetoric to garner support. So that video is very powerful, very interesting. I really appreciate the time with them. You can check that out on our Fred Hampton Leftist YouTube page.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. And I think that probably maybe more so than any other writer that I'm aware of, he's really brilliantly articulated the ways in which the Democratic Party of the modern day has failed working people. I think that there's still a lot of folks maybe that are of an older generation that still have this idea of the Democratic Party as being a labor-centric party. And Thomas Frank has done some amazing work in exposing the reality of that situation, really going back to Bill Clinton and how it all started, but even up to, the modern day with presidents like Obama and how they failed to
even
continue the working class tradition of the Democratic Party. So I think, his books, and especially Listen Liberal, What's the Matter with Kansas, and The People Know, have just done a brilliant job in exposing that and also helping to reclaim the term populism for those of us who actually are on the left, those of us who actually are interested in liberation and not just empowering, corporate America, essentially.
Yeah, well, what he told us on our podcast, which I thought was really interesting and kind of a bummer after being such a longtime fan of Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, was that the Democratic Party actually started to abandon labor and working class politics on a class level in exchange for prioritizing social issues like the ending the Vietnam War and a lot of the things that were hot commodities amongst the PMC class and on college campuses. And this went all the way back to McGovern, where it was assumed that the working class was just going to support the war in Vietnam because they were a bunch of brutes, and that's what brutes do. They're jingos, warmongers, and so that's what started the fraying of the party. It actually goes back to an anti-war, very liberal candidate, and that's kind of what started the divide. But yeah, the other thing about Thomas Frank is that he's just kind of such a delight to talk to. He still gets so enthusiastic about all of these concepts when he's explaining them to you. I was fanboying when I was talking to him just because I've read so many of his books and he's from our hometown. It was cool that we, just to kind of engage with him. But yeah, anyway, super nice guy. And I'm excited to relive this moment of this clip that's gone like low-key viral.
Yeah, this is pretty great. Did you have anything to add, JB?
No, I just want to say that I think it's kind of remarkable, especially this day and age, that you have someone that's part of the PMC and he's able to use hindsight and be reflective of, yeah, this is where the Democratic Party is and this is where it shouldn't be. And this is where the Democratic Party should go. And so I honestly think that it's refreshing as somebody who is, in a sense, pretty comfortable in life, also recognizing that the Democratic Party is really screwing up.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to his original thesis in What's the Matter with Kansas, right? Where I think growing up in Kansas, and this is certainly the case with me and Gavin as well, although we grew up much later, and sort of the resurgence in that heavy evangelicalism, Tea Party conservatism was really all the rage when I was first getting exposed to politics as a child. But you really do kind of see and you get exposed to why people hate the Democrats, right? And it's for this dumb kind of shit that we're going to get into later, the like paternal finger wagging and all that kind of stuff that the Democrats are known for while also not solving any problems. And then it's easy to get sold an empty bag of goods by the phony fake populist Republicans if you've been insulated in a rural or red state your whole life and you don't have exposure to a lot of other ideas. You just think that it's either the Democrats in the style of Bill Clinton or it's the Republicans in the style of these Tea Parties. And a lot of times, unfortunately, red staters will go for the fake populist, as we've seen time and time and time again. Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into this clip, which again happened on Bill Maher's program, HBO. Fuck Bill Maher.
I know, right? I did want to play this clip, which may have actually been from the same episode. This is just a clip from Bill Maher's little monologue issue or part of the show, and I thought it was worth playing just in case anyone wasn't aware of the tone being presented lately on Bill Maher's show. He's basically gone full boomer, if you're not aware. But before we get into the Thomas Frank, I wanted to quickly play this just for the cringe.
You think someone 80 is hopeless because they can't use an iPhone? Maybe the one who's hopeless is the one who can't stop using it. You think I'm out of it because I'm not on Twitch? Well, maybe I get Twitch, but I just think people watching other people play video games is a waste of fucking time.
To which
You think
everyone
someone 80
obviously replied, watching Bill Maher is a waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, he's, like I said, total boomer energy. This is basically what his show has evolved into or devolved into. You know, back in the day, he was more of an edgy liberal. Back in the days when his show was called Politically Incorrect, he was actually, you know, a little bit more on the cutting edge. And I know he's definitely always had some issues with things like Islamophobia and shit like that. That's totally inexcusable. But it really is, I think, worth
I think he
pointing
supported
out.
Nader at one point.
Yeah,
back in the
exactly.
day.
He really has fallen far. You know, he used to really be more radical, and it's so clear now that he's just, you know, incubating in this elitism and all of this privilege that it's totally tainted his ability to have any sort of a good take on what's going on, I guess. But I think that is a good segue into the next clip, of course, which is of Mr. Thomas Frank absolutely schooling him. This is crazy. I'll just play it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I really enjoyed this.
I think that there's something that we're overlooking here, and that's sort of been lurking behind all this, which really is that there really has been an important historical change. You were talking about James Carville a minute ago.
Yeah.
Carville, of course, most famous for getting Bill Clinton elected. A Democrat elected president in 1992. We all celebrated. Hey, look, the Democrats are back.
Yeah.
What does Clinton do? Basically, one of the first and most important things he does is NAFTA. You go back and what I was doing today. I spent a whole lot of time reading Clinton's speech that he gave on when he signed NAFTA, and he was basically saying, workers, you're screwed. You have to get used to it. This is a new economy. It's an economy for the highly educated. That's whose prosperity matters, and we're going to retrain all you people whose lives are ruined. This guy then does away with the welfare system. Remember, they called it welfare reform.
Well, he didn't do away with the welfare system.
No, they abolished it. It was overturned. They have something called TANF now. It's a load of shit.
Welfare in this country.
AFDC, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Then he goes around, deregulates Wall Street.
Cut a lot of people
deregulates Wall Street some more. Deregulates Wall Street yet again. Okay, this is a transformation.
He got rid of Glass-Steagall.
Sorry,
Glass-Steagall.
Yes, they overturned that.
Yeah,
That
so
was one of the many ways.
Clinton definitely moved the Democrats to the center. What's your point?
No, he moved the Democrats to the right, and he abandoned us.
To the center.
Remember, we were talking
or rightward to the center.
You think that's the center? This country didn't want those things.
Well,
this country didn't want to deregulate Wall Street, deregulate telecoms. People regard these moves that Bill Clinton made as absolutely genius, and I'm here to tell you that they redefined who the redefined who the Democratic Party was in a disastrous way, in a catastrophic way. And I am hoping, and I think Biden understands it, although Biden went along with everything that I just described and then some. Right? Biden was the bankruptcy bill under George Bush. Biden was mass incarceration again and again and again. But Biden seems to has grasped the folly of all this. This was a world historical mistake, a blunder that the Democrats made back in the 90s and continuing up until quite recent. There's something.
So yeah, that was fucking brutal.
Chef's kiss until he says that Biden's realized his problems with it. That's where Thomas Frank and I disagree.
That is,
but other than that, oh my God, he just hammered Bill Maher's balls with a baseball bat. I mean, that was.
And so many people have this nostalgia of Bill Clinton that they can't seemingly tie it down to a policy necessarily. It's just this, wasn't the Bill Clinton years great? The Democrats seemed like they were on top at that point. They seemed like we were the cool party and all this stuff. Why are you shitting on Bill Clinton? And then here comes Thomas Frank with the facts, and Bill Maher has nothing to say. What do you guys react to this clip?
Bill Maher only feels like that. It's because Bill Clinton made his life comfortable because he was rich even during the Clinton years. So, yeah, of course he's going to be fondling Clinton's balls just because Clinton would made it nice for him. But it's so stupid because the thing is that he has not one iota in his brain thinking about all the shit that people actually had to go through, especially the people who were in the Midwest and had to endure NAFTA and then losing their jobs and then being shipped overseas. So all that shit about, oh, well, Bill Clinton, the Clinton years, he just moved us to the center. No, dipshit. He moved us all the way to the right. That's what Clinton was there for. And so for Bill Maher to do this, you know, and Bill Maher is just an edgy liberal that says things that elitist liberals want to say, but they don't have the balls to say it to our
edgelord.
face. Yeah, that's exactly what he is.
Yeah, didn't he say like the N-word like 5 years ago on his show? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. He said. So he also said. Yeah, he said that 5 years ago. I think he said it. And then he had Ice Cube on the next week.
Yeah.
And Ice Cube just obliterates him. You know.
Dude, I remember that's like a throwback to like another era almost. That seems so long ago, but I guess it really wasn't that long ago, you know?
Yeah.
It's revisionist history that Bill Maher is engaging in.
Well, they all are engaged in it, and that's what I think is so important about a guy like Thomas Frank. And you alluded to this when you were talking about it. It's the fact that he has the comfort, he has the clout, he fits in that community, right? He founded the Baffler magazine. He knows his way around. He has a PhD in history from Chicago University. This guy has credentials. He has a pedigree. Okay, when he says he can get invited on Bill Maher's show, and it's so amazing that he's like, yeah, I'm going to go get invited on Bill Maher's show, dress up in a suit and tie like a professional man, and then fucking fillet you and tell and Bill Maher's audience might have been quiet. Everybody at home that was watching that is nodding along with fucking Thomas Frank, because even if you're 50 years old and you are a boomer and you hate cell phones and you think people like me and Gavin are like fucking destroying the earth with our liberal politics, like you're going to fucking understand that, yeah, everybody got hosed by NAFTA. Yeah, the welfare in this country isn't the same if you're a single mother trying to make it. We don't take care of single mothers in this country at all. We give, we barely keep them from starving to death and call it a success now. That's what Bill Maher was trying to defend. He was like, oh yeah, we give them Section 8 housing vouchers so they can live with rats and cockroaches and we can fucking sleep at night by pretending that we're housing people.
Actually, yeah, you know what? Just to point that out, okay, I would like to tell Bill Maher, I would ask him, how long is the waiting list for Section 8? Does he know? It's 5 years long. So Bill Maher doesn't even have a leg to stand on in there. So he can shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and it's not true.
Agree.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, RJ.
Yeah, I agree. What's surprising about that video is like Thomas Frank says, yeah, Bill Clinton cut the welfare state, and then Bill Maher goes, so he went, so yeah, so what? We cut some people off, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like your literal elitism is fucking showing. And like I'm from Michigan, so like the entire Midwest was fucked over by the Clintons. I mean, that was the manufacturing center. I mean, you literally can walk out of high school, get a job, work at the plant for 30 years, have your pension, have a retirement set, and you have all your benefits. And then when you're working
paid vacation.
Exactly. And when you have a kid, that kid can work in the factory too for the summer and pay off college. The reason why I know that is my grandma did it. She has a pension. She has a retirement. My dad, he used to work in the plant too when he was in college. All of that went away with the Clintons.
Yeah.
And so it just really shows how comfortable Bill Maher is and doesn't understand the entire political scenario.
Yeah, and Thomas Frank is just so necessary of a voice, I think, because there is an ungodly amount of liberals that really do just pin Trump's election on racism and ignorance. You know, they think that those are the only reasons why someone like Donald Trump would get elected, that half of this country is just so goddamn stupid and racist that they wanted Donald Trump. And to some extent, yeah, there's a lot of racists and there's a lot of stupid people, no doubt about that. But what they completely leave out of that equation is NAFTA, is the destructive policies of the Clinton administration.
The fact that they were pushing TPP when Obama left office and Clinton was going to pass it.
And it opened the door for when Trump was campaigning for him to say, look who I'm running against. It's the wife of the woman that took your job, and now she wants to pass another trade deal. It made it the easiest layup of all time for him. And again, of course, he definitely brought out the worst qualities in humanity. There's no doubt about that. But running the wife of Bill Clinton, responsible for NAFTA, who was not exactly running in opposition to trade deals, that was a terrible move. And that calculus is just completely left out of the story from 99% of reporters or commentators. They just don't talk about that. They just chalk it up to racism and ignorance.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what's kind of messed up about this situation. I mean, like you said about TPP, Obama was pushing it in his last year in office, and it was so unpopular that even
Yeah.
Hillary was like, "I don't know about this."
She would have
You know, and
passed
she
it, but
tried to,
yeah.
and she tried to retract herself.
But
Like,
even
even
Joe
Hillary,
Biden now is like, well, like I wasn't that in favor of TPP. And it's like, what are you talking about? You were like the main dog barking for that shit under Obama. You were like, Obama gave Joe Biden all the least popular shit that was super high austerity measures. And then Biden's job was to go and be like, we need unity. We need bipartisan support. I'm going to go rally the fucking crew for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I also want to address that someone commented they hate cell phones and love our politics things. By the way, I also hate cell phones, so I'm not completely.
I don't even have a Twitter account.
I'm not completely shitting on the sentiment of like, oh, people are on their phones too much, but I do think it's annoying to bring it up to like try to shame youth when you literally have to be online to exist in today's economy or
pandemic,
whatever. Yeah, like to do anything, you know, to apply for a job, to have any sort of a life, you have to be online. Unfortunately, I wish it wasn't that way, but they forced us into that position. Thanks to, you know, the industry of technology, essentially. But anyway, I kind of agree that it's annoying that people are on their phones too much. But for Bill Maher to bring that up and finger wag at the younger generation, and I just think that's super elitist and boomery. But to move on, unless you guys had anything else to say about Thomas Frank and Bill Maher.
Oh, no, just that Thomas Frank is a homie and Bill Maher is not a friend of the podcast.
ditto.
All right.
I think Bill Maher probably heard the same thing from his parents about television.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of shit that we all hear. It's like violent video games are gonna make your kid violent. Like, I mean, it's kind of like the, you know, like rock and roll music is gonna poison your mind. You can't listen to hip hop. That's bad. Like, you know, it's that kind of same shit. I'm like, okay, like we've been through this before. 100%.
Speaking of poison, Biden has taken a bold executive action to protect the most vulnerable among us from one of the true horrors of society. And of course, I'm talking about menthol cigarettes.
Yeah, I want to get your guys' take on this because I saw this and I thought this was the most blatantly like paternalistic, neoliberal, white savior racism that I've ever fucking seen, in a perfect way to obfuscate from doing anything fucking meaningful to actually assist this community. But go ahead and take the floor, guys.
I mean, my first thought was like, damn, Biden's trying to ban Swisher Sweets. Like, what is he doing? Like, we trying to, like, it's so funny because the black community itself, like, they all came out and voted for Uncle Joe wearing aviator sunglasses, looking ice cream. We're supposed to be at the cookout. We're supposed to have our drinks, our barbecue. And here goes Uncle Joe trying to ban Swisher Sweets. So we can't even have a good time during a pandemic. And so instead of like, you know, helping people get health care, poor people, people of color, now he's trying to ban a substance that he believes we shouldn't have. And that's pretty messed up. I mean, even like when Biden got into office, he eliminated the only good thing Trump ever did, which was cap the price on insulin. And he got rid of that executive order. So that's the first thought that came to my head about what Biden did. I was very, very shocked.
It strikes me surprising as he's so concerned about the health of people, and black people especially use menthol cigarettes, but he doesn't want to give us universal health care. That tells you a lot about Biden. It's the fact that he is so concerned, with us smoking Newports than us, having Medicare for all.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say it into the camera for anybody that's watching, okay? Especially those of you who are on Team Biden and you're black. Joe Biden does not give a shit about you. I'm going to repeat myself so that you guys can record this and then show this on your podcast and talk shit about me. Joe Biden does not give a shit about you. So the thing is that, and we know this, okay? This is the same guy that said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. This is the same guy that wrote the crime bill so that, your cousin who's still in prison under drug charges, because of Joe Biden. Yep. This is the same guy that your sister who still has who still has student loans. She can't claim bankruptcy on the student loans. Why? Because of Joe Biden. Yep. This is the same guy where maybe one of your uncles he went to, the war in Iraq, and who was one of the main people who pushed the war in Iraq? Joe Biden. So guess what? He doesn't give a shit about you.
And you know what else? You know what else pisses me off about this story is all these headlines reporting this. Banning menthol cigarettes is a racial justice. You know what else is a fucking racial justice issue? The illegality of cannabis. Joe Biden unilaterally took legalizing cannabis off of the Democratic Party platform when everyone else was on board. That would probably be considered definitely a racial justice issue, if not a fucking full-on crisis. I think we can all agree to that. So like you said, he definitely does not give a shit about black people. That's definitely not what this is about.
You just sprung that on me, and I just now see it. The reason why I'm laughing is that it is so laughable that the banning of menthol cigarettes is a racial justice issue. It's like, what in the hell have y'all been smoking? Like, are you serious right now? And it's stupid, because the thing is that he doesn't care about racial justice, because if he truly cared about racial justice, he actually would have put the candidate who actually had the most racial justice policies on their platform. But instead, he chose Kamala Harris. So, yeah, it's just keep going. I'm just going to laugh this off.
I also think that it's a little bit, looks like you're muted, Zach, or something. I was just going to say that it also seems like a little bit of an annoying issue from just a freedom perspective. Like, call me crazy, but I don't think that the government should be like, you can't smoke Swisher Sweets or menthols, but go buy a 12-pack of Diet Coke or any kind of soda which has an ingredient list like a mile long full of names you can't even understand. Like, who's to say why isn't that banned? And I'm not saying it should be, because, it reminds me of like when Michael Bloomberg banned Big Gulps, which is also stupid. Like, people can make their own fucking decisions. I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing to get kids hooked on fucking, soda or young adults hooked on cigarettes. Of course, there should be the proper, preventative information and like, all that shit, so that people know what they're getting into before they just addict themselves to nicotine or sugar. But we do live in a supposedly free country, and I don't like the government being like, you can't do that. Like, I feel like I'm a child again, and my mom.
Yeah, it's exactly what it does. Is it tries to infantilize the entire black community by being like, "Oh, these people can't make their own fucking decisions, so we're gonna have to make it for them."
Well, it's like Biden said during the presidential debates. We don't know how to raise our own families. We need to be taught. Like, he literally said that in 2020. So that was pretty messed up. And what people need to know about these drug wars, especially with drugs going on right now, is that the government is only employed to protect corporate profits. Like, there's this whole stigma against weed, against mushrooms, all these like natural herbals, but you can go to the store and buy over-counter acetaminophen and ibuprofen and all these different type of pills, and they wouldn't think nothing about it. But if you go to the store and buy weed or you buy shrooms, then you can get thrown in jail.
Or get prescribed opiates that'll fucking kill you.
Exactly.
For the profit of big pharma. Like, it's crazy.
Purdue. Yeah.
No, it's truly hypocritical. And it reminds me of the whole the episode that occurred under the Trump administration, when just out of nowhere, seemingly everyone decided that for like 3 months we were going to talk about vapes and how we need to ban fucking vapes and what are they called? Juuls. You know what I'm saying? That was like a months long conversation. Meanwhile, there's real crises going on, like we mentioned, with healthcare, with the drug war, criminal justice, real shit that actually needs to be addressed. Meanwhile, the people in power are like, let's ban fucking vapes and fucking menthols and shit like that. Like, is this really what?
Well, it's obfuscatory politics, right? So they don't want to have to address any of this shit. We saw how Biden treated the black leaders on that phone call that was leaked to the public, right? They brought up the things that the entire fucking country had demanded after George Floyd was killed. We all took to the streets and we demanded very clearly, all of us collectively, defund the fucking police. When they asked him about that, he not only finger wagged to them, he disrespected them completely, brushed them off, scolded them, and then continued to pursue these fucking bullshit policies that are not what anybody fucking asked for. And there has to come a time where we draw a line in the sand and say, we didn't fucking ask for any of this shit, Joe. What the fuck? And I mean, we're obviously the people like us have long passed that, but I'm waiting for everybody else to wake the fuck up and say, why are you doing this shit, Joe? We don't care about this. Do something we fucking care about. But he doesn't have to, because everybody, as Gavin said, the squad keeps licking his fucking ass.
Yeah, exactly. And according to Harris, since you brought her up, she recently told us that Biden and his administration was too busy to legalize cannabis. With all this hard work they're doing in the arena of stimulus and all that shit. So apparently they're too busy to handle legalizing cannabis, which again is a real criminal justice issue, a real criminal justice crisis. But they do have the time to sit around and talk about why we can't smoke menthols and swishers. This is the dumbest shit I've ever fucking heard.
Yeah, they're too busy, thinking of platitudes to tell us. That's all they're too busy to do. They're just.
Has there been any pushback from? I'm not on Twitter, so I don't know. Has there been pushback from the squad or any of these progressives?
No.
Has anybody come out and said this is bullshit?
No.
I'm just checking for the room. Everybody's like,
There's been a lot of good memes, but.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
This is the kind of shit that I think we should come to expect, but it's such bullshit.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous.
Anyway, I did want to see Mitt Romney, that Mitt Romney clip for us to react to.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mitt Romney, if you guys remember, Zach and I have been into politics for a while. So I certainly remember when Mitt Romney was the Republican nominee rather for president in 2012, going up against Barack Obama. And that was just such a different world. It seems like so fucking long ago. Everything has changed so much. What we consider possible in candidates has changed so much. Obviously, we've had, people like Bernie Sanders run for president since then. That didn't even seem like a real possibility at the time.
Donald Trump became president.
So the Republican Party is, needless to say, just completely changed. So I thought it was interesting to see how a figure like Mitt Romney is holding up in today's political climate. By the way, thanks for that super chat.
Oh, thanks, dude.
Appreciate that. But yeah, I figured it would be interesting to see how Mitt Romney is holding up in today's political climate, especially the political climate of the Republican Party, which, as I said, has certainly been shaped by Donald Trump. So let's just take a listen to this.
So what do you think about President Biden's first 100 days? Now, you know me as a person who says what he thinks, and I don't hide the fact that I wasn't a fan of our last president's character issues. And I'm also no fan...
I want to make this my ringtone.
Aren't you embarrassed?
I love this song.
And I'm also no fan
A
of
lot
the
of liberals during the Trump era
This
were
dude's
like,
you got to get the fuck off the stage
Yeah,
now. I'm
I
sorry.
think so.
These people don't want you.
and this is the Utah GOP convention, by the way. And I was just going to say, a lot of people during the Trump era, a lot of liberals, for example, were just like, they were so mind blown and aghast that more Republican elites weren't standing up against Trump and weren't calling out his, very, very bombastic and rude and aggressive behavior and all that stuff. They're like, how is this? How are these Republicans? How are they just okay with this? Well, this is fucking why.
They didn't want to commit career suicide.
Yeah, Mitt Romney
Donald Trump
was
is
one of
so
the-
fucking popular. This is in
Yeah.
Utah. This motherfucker's a Mormon.
Yeah, and he's one of the only people that actually presented himself in opposition to Donald Trump. Of course, he was. I think he was the only Republican to vote for his impeachment. And this is the price he's paying. So this is, when you piss off this particular base of voters, this is how they treat you, which I think
Mitt
is
Romney's about
is
to run as
very-
a Democrat for president.
He might as well, yeah. And I think some people were shouting communist at him, which is so funny. But you guys, I'd love to know your reaction to this.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of funny, because it's weird how our political climate is. I mean, the right is getting rid of Mitt Romney for all the wrong reasons. Like Mitt Romney, Wall Street guy, corrupt policies, absolutely terrible. But they're just getting rid of him because of his personal hatred for Donald Trump. So at one hand, I'm like, okay, yay, fuck Mitt Romney. But on the other hand, I'm like, yikes, that's gonna really bite us back in the butt. Because also, too, resistance liberals are now saying, see, he's the responsible Republican. He's basically the
He's gonna
one
get
that
the
we all
Colin Powell
like.
treatment.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely terrible. So I mean, that's my initial thoughts.
Do you guys think he could be rehabilitated into like a potential Democrat?
Yes, that's what's scary.
I think it's definitely going to happen. I think we're going to see a little bit of a realignment happen. Certain people are going to switch sides. I have a few other predictions in that regard, but I do see Mitt Romney taking that switch. Maybe we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong.
They did it to George W. Bush, so they'll do it to Mitt Romney as well.
Yeah, dude, it's so
Exactly.
fucked up how they've been doing it for a while with George W. Bush, right? But you would have never been able to convince me in like 2010 or 2015 that George Bush was going to someday be considered like a good person. Like this is like, you could have like a lot of things have happened and changed.
Literally, all it took was Michelle Obama handing him a piece of fucking candy, and everyone was like, "You're forgiven."
Yeah, it's like, oh, we don't care that you got us into Iraq and Afghanistan and lied to us about weapons of mass destruction, and I mean, countless other fucking things that George Bush did while president. Being, not to mention just being a fucking idiot.
Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib.
All the black sites we don't know about. I was reading about a black site in Poland the other day that some dude got fucking tortured, and I was like, I didn't know we had black sites in Poland. I'm not surprised we do, but I was like, holy shit, they're everywhere.
Yeah, being stagnant with sending FEMA into New Orleans during the Hurricane Katrina, so that was bullshit. I mean, literally black people on top of roofs begging for help by helicopters. I mean, that type of optic is absolutely terrible.
Even
but
Kanye George Bush.
Exactly. And thanks to Michelle Obama, too. Apparently now George Bush is Uncle George because of that candy that she gave him and how she loves him and he's a good friend or whatever. And it's just like, oh, it's just so terrible because they just become co-opted and then they become more likable.
Even Kanye West was right about George Bush. Think about that. Kanye West.
That was before Kanye went full crazy, though. He was still putting out masterpiece after masterpiece.
Yeah.
It was a golden time.
He's fallen pretty far since then.
Dude, did anybody listen to his most recent project?
The Jesus is King one?
There's one coming out after Jesus is King, though, right?
No, dude, I stopped listening a while ago to Kanye.
Yeah, I've listened to Kanye in a long time. The last Kanye song I listened to is when he did with Estelle, American Boy. That's the last song I've listened to. When
did that come out? Shit, what? Because but anyway, I'm a big Kanye guy, but that's beside, not politically, and anyway, not anything that's come out in the last like 5 years. But
Zach loves everything Kanye's ever said or done, guys. Not kidding. But since one last thing I did want to talk about, since we were just reacting a little bit to Mitt Romney, who some people still think is going to take another crack at it in 2024, which I think is hilarious.
As a Democrat.
Either way, it would be fucking hilarious to watch. But I wanted to get your guys' reaction and see if you had any predictions of any sorts about who might potentially take the 2024 GOP primary by storm and could potentially have a chance of winning. Because I think that's going to have a lot to do with the conversation we're having in a couple of years. What kind of Republican will Biden having to defend his presidency to, and how will that affect the discourse? And I pulled up this poll here so we can take a look at some of the contenders, but I'd really be interested to see if you guys have any predictions. It looks like I think this is not including Trump, so this is assuming that Trump won't run, but Ron DeSantis of Florida is 21%. You can tell us your opinion. I'd love to hear your opinion, JB, because you're in Florida. And then Ted Cruz coming in at number 2 with 18%. It's not going to happen, Ted. I'm sorry, bro, but it's not. Nikki Haley, even more hilariously, at 10%. Mike Pompeo, Tucker Carlson. I feel like if anything, he will rise if he actually runs. I feel like he would destroy someone like Cruz, although I'm not happy about that. Kristi Noem from South Dakota, Tom Cotton, Josh Hawley stuck at 2%. That's so funny. But yeah, I'd love to know your guys' opinions.
I'd like to draw attention to Ron DeSantis, or as many people in Florida call him, Death Santis. Ron DeSantis is a miniature Trump. This guy literally ran his campaign commercials, with having his infant child building a wall. Okay? This dude is so far up Trump's ass that all has to do Trump is breathe and Ron DeSantis will come out. That's how far he's up his ass. And so for, us to have a potential DeSantis, number one, DeSantis is actually smarter than Trump, which is scary. And then DeSantis just did, sign a bill that makes protesting our First Amendment rights illegal.
They can run you over with a fucking car and get away with it, which is crazy after Charlottesville. Crazy.
Exactly. And you know what? The authoritarian right wing would love DeSantis.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you right now, if he runs and if he wins, we're screwed because DeSantis is really bad news. You think he's bad because he has power in Florida now? Wait till he has power as a president. This dude is going to be crazy.
What kind of case do you think he would make against a Joe Biden? Because Ron DeSantis, seemingly his whole thing is anti-lockdowns, not going to take COVID seriously at all. We're just going to, get through COVID instead of actually addressing it. And I guess the one thing you could say about Joe Biden that he's handled decently is, getting vaccines out, stuff like that, kind of handling the pandemic slightly more competently than the Republican predecessor. And obviously, he hasn't given us universal health care, so he's failed. But in comparison to what we're used to,
or gotten vaccines for the third world, which will just continue to perpetuate the cycle. But anyway,
but that's not going to be something that Ron DeSantis is, pointing out as why he's a bad president, right? So I'm just interested in the kind of case he would make against Biden, because it doesn't seem like Biden is the most authoritarian when it comes to lockdowns. He's saying you can take off your mask if you're outside now. He's not really embodying the stereotype of the authoritarian liberal that is hell-bent on keeping this country locked down for all of eternity. So I'm just wondering what message you think Ron DeSantis would broach in opposition to Biden in 2024, were he to win the Republican primary, which certainly seems like a very high possibility if Trump doesn't run.
Well, first off, I don't think Biden's going to run in 24. I think it's going to be Harris. And
I disagree with that, but go ahead.
Yeah. I think that, okay, let's just say hypothetically Biden does run in 24. Okay. DeSantis is going to go, I think 65% of it is going to be culture war. And the other 35% is probably going to be economics and saying that, he expanded Obamacare, things like that. He's going to say a lot of the things that Trump followers want. He may go the fake populist route, but at the same time, he's kind of a mixed bag, because this is the same guy that, beat Andrew Gillum. And Andrew Gillum was like, I'm for Medicare for all and all that, even though he wasn't really for Medicare for all.
Yeah, wasn't he running around with Hillary Clinton and shit?
Yeah, he backtracked. Well, he got Bernie Sanders' endorsement during the primary, and then as soon as he started running in the general, he moved to the right.
Yeah.
So I think that
his political career kind of got ruined, didn't it? If I'm not mistaken, because he got busted with that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, what do you think, RJ?
Yeah, I think the top two for me is DeSantis and Josh Hawley. And there's two different reasons why. So DeSantis, he has the same juice as Donald Trump, the same vitriol, culture war bullshit that comes out of his mouth. But he's a lot more measured. Just listening to him speak and talk during events, you still hate him, but there's not a visceral hatred by the general public. And the reason why I say that is that I was watching Rising a month ago, and Sagar and Jetty, he did like a story about Ron DeSantis using Publix, which is a health store to Publix, right? Which is a health store to funnel vaccines through for distribution and for seniors to get it. And the problem is 60 Minutes did a story about it, and apparently it wasn't accurate, and 60 Minutes got a whole lot of backlash from it, and people were defending Ron DeSantis. So that's kind of the scary part too. Because even 60 Minutes tried to do a hit piece on him, and it kind of backfired.
And it just kind of peddles their. Yeah, but Josh Hawley, you said also.
Yeah, Josh Hawley too. And the reason why I say Josh Hawley is when I thought he was going to rise to prominence when he sided with Bernie on the 2K checks. Like when he got on the Senate floor and said, "Wow, if you're not for this, you're crazy. This is the most American thing to do." Because once you slap American on something, when you're a right winger, everybody gets in line for it now. Like that's what Biden's whole thing was, like the American Recovery Plan or whatever. He just slapped American on it, try to get Republican votes. Didn't work, but a nice try. And I think he'll try to rehabilitate his reputation from Stop the Steal, because Stop the Steal kind of pissed off a lot of mainline Republicans. But I still think he has a chance. So
yeah,
it seems like he has no charisma or ability to really like get in touch with the voter, though. Do you think he can overcome that? He comes off as such a fucking elitist, like Ivy League, like fucking rich kid to me.
That's fair. It depends on like how deep he can get in with MAGA,
Yeah, and I think that I think it's going to depend on what you're talking about, RJ. He's going to have to. I think he has a lot of the like Machiavellian brain to make the calculations to become like a kind of potential politician. But I do agree with Gavin that he's just not likable enough. And as somebody who lives in Missouri, I can never tell, like, you know, is it my just personal aversion to him that makes him seem so cringy to me and so unlikable? But judging by the polling, it seems like the Republicans kind of agree.
He's not taking off. Yeah, it seems like he's not taking off at all.
But I also fucking hate the guy, and I hope that he.
Oh yeah,
I mean, you know what
Everyone
I mean? Like, he's an odious piece of shit.
Yeah.
I just I would.
Even the one person that I know of that loved Josh Hawley, which was Sagar and Jetty of Rising, doesn't talk much about him anymore, and I know was extremely critical of the way he handled the whole post January 6th stop the steal shit. I think
that ended up being a misstep for him as far as his career goes.
So it's possible he's able to, you know, totally like reignite whatever he was trying to get going. But to me, it seems like he kind of is stuck in the mud. I'll be interested though. You know, he definitely come out there and like do something super controversial and get in the you know, favor of all these Republican voters that want some, like, you know, savage crazy man or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how the like debates are handled. It'll be interesting to see who of these candidates is able to kind of best channel the Trump energy, because I know Chris Christie's also getting involved, and he certainly has that ability to.
He's about to announce, I think, like early,
super Trumpian. So he could definitely just rhetorically, you know, take some of these candidates out. But you know, Ron DeSantis has that governor experience under the pandemic that I think he's going to hammer Christie with over and over again. He's going to say, you know, Christie, you've been sitting on your fat ass at CNN talking about shit for the last couple of years. I've actually been the governor of a state. I've actually been, you know, handling COVID like a real Republican should, or whatever the fuck he's going to say. And I do think that'll be a more compelling case than the bullshit boomer Fox News politics of Chris Christie, who just happens to be an effective orator. So it'll be interesting to watch, but I'm super excited.
Yeah. Let's not forget the beached whale incident.
Oh my god, the classic. Yeah,
but anyway, that was all we had as far as stories go for today, as far as I know. Gavin, did you have anything else that you wanted to pull up and react to?
Not really. I guess one other thing that I wanted to say, because I mentioned it, is that I do think Biden is going to run. I think it's going to be Biden 2024. And then if anything, because people were saying, oh, Biden's going to, like, 2 months into his presidency, he's going to step aside and then Kamala's going to take over. If anything, I see that happening in term number 2.
That's what I was going to point out.
And Biden barely had to do shit to get elected this time. He literally sat in his basement. He literally did fewer media appearances than any other candidate. He literally exposed himself to as few voters as possible, and the media just carried him to victory. There's no reason that can't happen again in 2024. You know, especially now that he has the incumbency bias. He's literally, they're going to be like, he's busy being the president. What do you want him to do? Be out here fucking campaigning all day? Meanwhile, they're going to be giving him softball coverage, glorifying and celebrating his accomplishments. And I think it's going to be easy for him to pull that off again. And then, you know, if he really is in a bad place with his health, then he can step aside in a year or so after he's reelected, hand things off to Harris, who I do not think would be able to win against any of these characters. I think that would be a slaughter. And I think that the Democrats know that, which is why they're going to keep Biden as the head of the ticket. Kamala is weak. She's terrible. She's a horrible politician. She miserably failed in her run for president. And she's really not had much of a presence even as a VP. So I don't really
she does. It's just every time she gets a fucking microphone, she fucking puts her foot in her mouth, right? We've already had wars over oil. We're going to have wars over water next. Like, you know, this kind of shit.
She's so bad. She's so, like, the liberals try to treat her like this Yas queen or whatever, but she has so few effective moments. She's such a poor politician. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. One part too, really, that Kamala is struggling with the black community over is basically agreeing with Tim Scott. You know, Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. He's a black senator. He said, oh yeah, racism does not exist in America. And then Kamala Harris goes and says, oh yeah, racism doesn't exist in America, but we do have to do with systematic racism. It's like, those two are contradictory claims.
It's kind of like her support for Medicare for all, right? Like, I didn't understand the question. Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys. I didn't understand the question. You asked me if I supported Medicare for all, and I said, yes, that was very confusing.
Right. And back to what Gavin said, too, about Joe Biden, you know, probably giving up the mantle probably in his second term. Even like during last week when Biden had his address to the nation, the Washington Post literally said, hey, you know, we're going to discontinue our fact checking after all of the debates and stuff. And it's like, You guys literally like fact check Donald Trump for 2 hours after every debate, and now that Uncle Joe is in there, it's all okay to discontinue it because apparently now facts are back in the White House. So it's
The
it's just all
Pinocchios.
the.
You remember that? The Pinocchios?
Oh yeah.
It was like when Trump got 5 Pinocchios. Like Chuck Schumer one time, he was like, Mr. Trump got 5 Pinocchios from the Washington Post, and Trump was like, do you think I give a fuck about how many Pinocchios the Washington Post? Anyway, back in the day. But it was super good having you guys on. We really appreciate hanging out with you all this morning, and also everyone that's watching right now. We always love talking news together.
Sunday morning streams are usually a pretty good time if you guys are ever down to pop on.
Did you guys want to say anything else? Let people know where they can find you and the Fred Hampton Left podcast, and just plug anything you want.
Fred, check us out on YouTube. Check us out on Twitch. We're also on Twitter at Fred Hampton Left. We have some good surprising guests coming up in the works potentially. I'm not going to release it now because it's not permanent, but just stay tuned.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm. You guys can follow me at JBFont on Twitter and continue to keep following Fred Hampton Leftist. We will be having some really great interviews coming up. And also, I just want to say that I want to thank people for having, the faith in us to be able to continue this. And I want to thank, Gavin and Zach for having us on to do this crossover. This is actually a privilege because the thing is that solidarity needs to happen whenever and however possible, because let's be honest, as far as the more prominent bread tubers, I don't see them crossing over that much. It's almost like they always stay in their particular lanes. And I think that what we're doing here is actually something that's valuable because it shows that, this is how we continue to move forward in not only spreading the news of what people deserve, but also in a particular teaching campaign to let people know that they deserve better. And I just want to thank you guys for giving us the privilege to be here.
Well, yeah, fuck yeah, man. Well, we love having you guys on. It's always a great chat, and you guys are obviously friends of the show and welcome on whenever. We love doing crossovers. Gavin and I love doing panel shit like this because it just makes it more fun to react to the news, and it's pretty low key. And whenever you guys want, just hit us up, and we can always get something thrown on the calendar. We love doing crossovers. It was fucking fun having you guys.
Yeah,
thank you. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
Such a good time as always. Looking forward to chatting with you again, and hope you have a beautiful rest of your Sundays. We look forward to chilling again.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Peace out, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Gavin and I are going to be back on a little bit later tonight to reveal a special Vanguard surprise and probably wrap our book club at some point. So well, not wrapping the book club permanently. We're going to finally put a bow on Hate Inc. later tonight. And then starting next week, we'll be doing a new book club with a special friend of the show, which we'll announce later. But thanks for everybody that tuned in, and thanks for hanging out with us. It's always great hanging out with some friends of the show.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks so much again to RJ and JB. We can't wait to have you back on again, and just really loving engaging with the Fred Hampton Left podcast community. They have such a great show going on over there, and I'm just so happy to see more voices on the left, speaking truth to power, being unapologetic about what they believe in, and that's what we're trying to help promote.
And also, it feels like Gavin and I were always the youngest people doing this shit. Like, there's not a lot of people who are like 22, 23 doing this, so it's always fun to do it with people who are like more our age, more plugged into like what the fuck we're doing. Not that we don't love all of our guests that are, regardless of their, but there's just a little bit of something that's nice to do with some people who are, a little bit closer in your own, like plugged into your own cultural web, I guess. You know what I mean? Just other young dudes.
Exactly. So just a huge shout out to them, and we can't wait to chat again. But before we pop off, just wanted to say another big special thanks to our patrons. Thanks so much to everyone supporting us at patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. That link is in the description. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, we have a really exciting special interview coming up later this week that is going to be Patreon exclusive for at least a week. So if you really want to see that interview, which I promise you're going to want to see, hit up that Patreon link and get a week early access. It'll be rolling out later this month. You can also get access to our Discord that way. Any patrons at any level obtain that access. So that's where the community is really going down if you want to be part of it. But obviously, if not, you can just hit that subscribe button and hit the like button. That's also an amazing way to support the show. And we really just appreciate hanging out with you guys. as always, it's so fun to talk about the news and just, foster this community of solidarity. Like JB was saying, it's so important to just get together and have these conversations, hear other perspectives, work through what's going on. And
coalition build.
Exactly. So thanks everyone for watching. You guys are the best. And we'll see you later tonight, as Zach said.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.